Hi guys, welcome back to WDSportz. I'm Ahmed, your host today, and today we've got a special guest, Nick. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, I'm Nick Robinson. I'm chairman of the Isthmian Football League.
Nice, sweet intro there by Nick. So Nick, just tell us about how you got into the role and why the role suits you, and what do you like about the role?
Oh, that's a big topic. How long have you got? Um, I've been involved with the league since 19. Well, I was made league secretary in 1982, and prior to that, I'd been club secretary with Dulwich Hamlet. So I've been involved in many parts and many facets of the league since 1982. I've been chairman for the last 4 years.
Wow, that's amazing. What convinces you to carry on going with your role as chairman? What motivates you to stay in this role, and what are your main goals you would like to see in the upcoming years as chairman?
I think that what keeps me going, something new always comes up. I mean, the present situation is something we nobody ever thought about before.
No.
But prior to this coming up, very foolishly a year ago, I said to Kelly, our chief executive, I don't think there's anything new that can come up. And ever since then, something new comes up virtually every month.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Whereas in the office, it sort of works on a calendar basis. It's December, so you're coming up to certain timelines. So we do financial. The financial reporting is one of the timelines. Is 31st of December. You're going to January, and you're working towards cup finals. Into February, you're doing this. March, you're working towards transfer deadline. April, you're preparing for next season. It's very much a calendar basis in the office. Whereas for me as chairman, I don't work in the league office. I'm a solicitor by profession and have my own practice. So for me, it's a matter of supporting the chief executive, leading the board, but dealing with a lot of things. I mean, I go to matches every week. I see something like 100 matches a season.
Wow.
So people know me. People will ring me. It's one of the reasons that I think we're unique in the Isthmian League across our sister leagues in having officers that do go to matches on a very regular basis. Kelly goes to probably as many, if not more than me, and Craig, as our vice chairman, when his club isn't playing, he will go and see other clubs. So all the clubs know the three officers of the league and aren't afraid to pick the phone up to us, which has been fantastic, particularly in this current crisis.
Do you think that helps with your rapport? Do you think clubs have been more open with you in the past, especially now as well? Compared to other leagues where it's almost like a shut-off system where the main overheads of the league don't get involved, but the way you speak about that, as well as they just pick up a phone, do you think that helps you, I want to say, orient the league better, make it more entertaining for everyone, and make it more beneficial for every team involved?
There's no doubt that it helps. As an example, a club chairman came to see me a few weeks ago because he had a particular problem and wanted to talk it through with me. And we talked it through, and I said how the league could help, that sort of thing. And I said, tell me, why did you come to see me? And we'd had a problem with this particular club a few seasons ago. They didn't like the decision we made. They took us to appeal at the FA, and they lost that appeal. As we came out of the appeal room, I shook his hand and said, in future, talk to us, come to us and ask us. So he said, you tell me to do that, so I have, and you're absolutely right, you've helped me. And they have resolved the difficulties that they had. And, we have a tremendous rapport with our board of directors. We've got 12 directors. And, they are incredibly hardworking, incredibly supportive. So I will go to them and say, we have a club X, and I won't say what the club is, and I'll explain the difficulty. They will deal with that as a policy basis. And normally after we've got a decision, I'll tell them who the club is. But they trust me, and Kelly. Kelly is fantastic as our chief executive. We form a really good working partnership. And as I say, the board are very trusting and very supportive of us.
For listeners and viewers of this episode, what is your advice for someone who wants to get involved in work like yours as chairman? Do you think they should go get experience? Do you think education is key, or do you think just getting involved in a local club at your level is key? What do you think it is, or is it a mixture of all three, or more than that?
Well, I think the primary thing for everybody is to get involved with their local club. People that you speak to, people particularly my vintage, the chairman of the FA, he says he started off as a programme seller at his local club, Greg Clark. Lots of people, back in the day, as they say, started selling programmes. Okay, we don't have such big crowds these days, and we don't have needs for programme sellers, but that's how people got involved in the 50s, the 60s, going back that far. But there are so many jobs for volunteers. Our clubs cry out for volunteers. Somebody goes along to their local club and say, "What can I do to help?" Will be snapped up immediately. Things to do. Just for instance, on a match day, wearing the tabard that says "Here to help." That's one of the things that we brought in about 5 years ago, just to have somebody around so that somebody new to a ground can say, "Oh, where's the bar? Where are the toilets? Where's this? Where's that?" And it's a really important thing. So there are so many, the smallest big jobs that can be done by volunteers at our clubs. So I would say to anybody who's interested, make contact. Go onto our website, look under club details, and it will give you the club secretary's contacts. And that's the way to do it. Ring the club secretary and say, "I want to help." They won't send you away, I can assure you.
Can you see the difference between a club that has a lot of volunteers and a club that doesn't, when it comes to stuff like attendance and how the team performs on the pitch? Or do you think there's not much correlation there?
I don't think there's a direct correlation to the number of volunteers and the performance on the pitch. Otherwise, everybody will be paying volunteers. There are certain clubs that have huge numbers of volunteers, and they are successful in that. Their fundraising, that sort of thing, is there because it's a club effort. So the team on the pitch have their team effort, but the club as a whole is one team. And I look at a club, one of my local clubs, Sutton United, and I'm always impressed by the number of volunteers they have, and they've always had since they were, they came into the Isthmian League in 1963. And so I first knew them back in the 70s. They've always had huge numbers of volunteers, and look how successful they are. So maybe there is a correlation, and there are other clubs, and if we look around, sadly, if you look at some of the clubs who are failing or ailing, should I say, they are ones that often are saying we've got nobody to do any of the work.
Exactly.
Quite often, as a league and through the Football Association, we say, well, we want this form done or we want this done. And somebody will come and say, oh, we're all volunteers. It's a story we hear time and time again. When we first introduced live scores, we said to clubs, look, you're going to have to send a text every time there's a goal. The initial reaction was, we're all volunteers, it's another job you're giving us. But actually, when they saw what it produced and the wonderful service it gives, everybody was happy to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
It is, sometimes there is a difficulty on occasions. Kelly has quite often on a Saturday been called in to do the work herself for a club because that particular volunteer hasn't turned up that day. So they will so they don't know how to do it. So they will ring her whatever game she's at, and she'll input the live score.
Yeah.
So there's a short delay while that goes on, but
Yeah.
it goes to show the help that we will give to clubs when a volunteer is down.
Yeah. Going back to what you said before of you being a solicitor and having your own firm, how do you manage your football life almost and your work life? Do you ever think sometimes your work life takes priority more than your football life, or do you think you've made a system where you've managed to make almost like a good balance between the two?
Well, I suppose, fortunately, I have my own firm. So I decide when I'm doing the work. And I mean, currently I'm working 12-hour days. I'm in at 9 o'clock. I don't leave till 9 o'clock in the evening. And that's without any football, without going to matches, without going to, I'm a member of the FA, without going to Wembley, because we're doing all the meetings are being done by Zoom conferences. So there's no traveling, but it means that if I'm spending a couple of hours during the day on football, such as with this interview, then I've got to make up the time at other times. So my day was scheduled. I got a particular file I had to work on, so I came in at 9 o'clock. I did that. I had a seminar at 10:30. I worked again on that particular file, sent it all off so that you and I could speak when we had arranged this interview. But that's why the appointment was so important, so that I can schedule each day.
You talk about how your work has gone through this crisis of COVID-19. How do you think football has reacted on your level, as well as I suppose a global level, if you like, as well, with COVID? Do you think it's reacted in a positive way? Do you think it's reacted in a negative manner, or do you think the FA and other organisations just don't know how to respond to it because, like you said earlier, no one has really seen this coming?
There's a lovely saying that with hindsight, you can have 20/20 vision.
Yeah.
And, if we look back over the last 4 weeks and think, what did we do right? What did we do wrong? We might correct a few things, but these were things that we could never possibly have imagined. And so I think what I know we can do, and we as my own board, we can look every club in the eye and say we did everything honestly. And we made decisions that we felt were in the best interest of the game and for our 82 clubs. And I think that, so there's nothing I regret. If we go back to that first week in, or the middle week in March, when we first came up, we were the first league to come up and say, no respect handshake. And then we came up and said, no matches this weekend. We in the Southern League did that. A couple of the other leagues said, no, we're going to play this weekend. And they were, I think that they got some criticism in some parts. But I'm very comfortable that we stopped play when we did. And I hope that we'll make sensible decisions moving forward as to when we can gradually start playing again. A lot's been made of the fact that we made the decision recently, and the FA are in the middle of considering confirming the decision to terminate the season and expunge the records. But we did that in the best interest of everybody. Yes, there are some clubs who are unhappy. Unfortunately, in a situation like this, another saying, we will never please all the people all the time. We know that. What you try to please the vast majority. So those who are not getting promotion, I'm really, really sad for them. Some of the I consider them personal friends, and it's very sad that a club that's worked really hard during the season, completed 3/4 of its fixtures, may not get promoted. What can you do other than just say, look, I'm really sorry? They say, well, you could change it, you could do this. But then, at the other end of the spectrum, we would have to relegate clubs who have only completed 75% of their games. And that's not fair either. So, if we have, if we do it in that way, we know that somebody is going to be upset.
I mean, that's why I suppose football is unpredictable yeah, as you basically said. But as well, what is your message for people? Because I've got friends who are volunteers at clubs and who do stuff like the media team and stuff like that. What is your message to them who are probably thinking, well, all my hard work has gone down the drain. People who do it for free. What is your message for them to try and keep them motivated and to try and stay on as volunteers in the upcoming season?
I don't think anything's gone down the drain because at the time they were pleased to do it. At the time, everybody around them was pleased. They were a community club. They will be a community club again. And so, what I think is for anybody who feels that their hopes have been dashed, all I would say is if we compare that to what's going on in the world,
Exactly.
it's nothing. If we compare to the thousands and thousands of deaths that are happening around the world because of this horrible COVID-19, the fact that somebody hasn't got promoted,
it's not the end of the world, I suppose.
I don't think so. And what I would say is I think that we have to use that motivation to spur us on for next season to say, right, we're going to do it again. We're going to do this. We're going to do it. And that's really my message to people is please don't let this affect your spirits. Please it be a spur to go on and do even more for your club next season.
How are clubs? Because at the moment, as well, it'll be interesting to see your opinion on the furlough scheme that the government have set up as well. But more importantly, like that, when you talk about the financial side of football, how do you think clubs who are almost relying on matches to create revenue and to be able to play football to stay afloat, how do you think they're surviving at the moment? And do you think the FA have plans to help them in the future, or is it up to the club themselves?
Obviously, every club is different, but it is incredibly difficult. I mean, talking to clubs, I hadn't even thought at one stage in the early part of the lockdown how, we just think, well, there's no football. But actually, there's no events at clubs. Not only that, but clubs have bought beer, that sort of thing, that is in the kegs, it's in the pipes. They can't sell it, but they've had to pay in advance for it. Now, I hadn't even thought of that part of it.
No, I don't think anyone had.
Well, I was speaking to one club a couple of days ago. They told me that their brewery had actually refunded them and given them a credit for all the beer they bought in the past couple of weeks. So, I mean, that was fantastic. And if all breweries have acted in that way, well, then I think we should make a really big song and dance about it and thank them. It affects clubs in so many ways. There's no weddings, so there's no event to be held. And what we know is that, our clubs are not just about football. We said earlier, we said it maybe glibly, we call our clubs community clubs. They are the heart of the community. They have weddings there. They have wakes there. They have all these things, christening, happy events, sad events, but they are events that need a venue, and people turn to our clubs. So that income stream is stopped as well. So it's not just about the playing of football. And that's the worry about, when football comes back, if it's brought in, even at our levels, to say, well, we'll allow you to play football, but it's got to be behind closed doors. Well, that may work for the higher echelons that are televised, so they've got income coming through there. But it doesn't work for us at our level where there is no income at all. If you say there's no spectators, well, there's not much point in having football at our level because our clubs have still got to pay their expenses. If they don't pay their players, they've still got to pay the match officials.
Yeah, exactly.
They still the away team have still got the cost of getting their players to the ground. All those things have still got to be paid with no income whatsoever. So, I do worry for our level of the game. We often compare the National League system to the filling in the sandwich, because the Premier League, the EFL, the National League, even at step one, they're all treated as the professional game. Step below, they're treated, that's grassroots. They get special consideration. The county FAs look after them. Who looks after us? Well, without the Alliance and the Leagues Committee at the FA, the answer is no one. So, we do have to fight quite hard for everything we get. I don't think that the Football Association can be looked on to support our clubs. I really don't. I mean, they are already facing a massive hole in finances because of the loss of the FA Cup, the FA Trophy, the FA Vase.
Big competitions
this season. The FA is looking at a 100 million plus hole in its finances. So it is quite incredible when we look at those things. When football's working, and we got all this money coming in, everybody sits back and says, "Isn't it wonderful? We've got all this money coming in," and the problem is what to do with it. But when it's not coming in, and when there's a hole and you've got budgets worked on it, you suddenly, my word, we have a really difficult problem.
And lastly, the thing I want to ask you before we go is because we had Simon from Your League TV on the other week, and he talked about community because he supports Whitehawk FC. He's got elderly fans who go to that game who see football as almost a social aspect. And now, ironically, with social distancing, what is your message to fan communities who rely on seeing these people each week as a source of almost social time, but as well as almost like as a community spirit? What is your message for fans on that level?
I think it's the same message as to the volunteers that we said about earlier. It is, when it comes back, let's really embrace it. Let's make sure that we show that we really have missed it. Let's fill those attendances. Let's get behind the teams and let's show the community clubs that we are part of that community and that we really want them to be there. I think that's, I fear that there are a lot of clubs that may have been on the brink before are going to look at it and say, do we go on? Well, I think it's up to the spectators to say, yes, we want you. I see every day, particularly in the grassroots at step 7, step 6, there are clubs saying, we're not going ahead. 31st of March was the day that clubs had to resign or be fined. And last week, we saw a number of clubs. I saw one from the Midland League resigned last week. And you start worrying about clubs in that situation as to whether they can survive with no income. But they still got overheads. They still got rents to pay. They still hopefully they get some help with the rates. But they still got rent to pay. If the landlord, they don't own their own ground, and most clubs don't these days. A landlord is saying, well, sorry, you signed a lease. I need the rent to be paid.
But yeah, that's a great message to end on, Nick. Thank you so much for your time. I'm sure the fans will definitely enjoy this. I hope you had a good time getting interviewed by me, and I hope you enjoyed it. But yeah, I hope the fans stay true. I hope the clubs stay true, and I hope that you and your team continue doing the work you do. But it was so good to hear from you today.
Okay, thanks very much indeed.